Alright, guys, let's talk about the Ungentlemanly Warfare. This is Guy Ritchie's latest film. I went into this one kind of a little excited, even though I was also hesitant about this movie because A, this is a Guy Ritchie film, and I know there are lots of fans of Guy Ritchie's film. Why did I say flans? Excuse me. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Anyways, there are lots of fans of Guy Ritchie's stuff, and I kind of like some of his movies. I really like Snatch. I like Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and I like the Gentleman. But everything else, I could just pass on. I think this dude is really, especially after the Aladdin remake, has been on a very bad losing streak. You know what? Actually, I like The Covenant. I'm never gonna rewatch that movie, but I thought it was fun. Everything else about his movies have just been so bad lately. It just feels like there's no effort, no real style, no real vision anymore. Guy Ritchie's kind of just doing this thing. He feels like a Tim Burton, right? Where Tim Burton is a director that has a very distinct style and vision to him, but over the years, that that vision and style has gone bland and kind of old, and yet his fans kind of still defend him either way, and it's just the whole thing. But this one looked fun. I was also hesitant about this movie because it looked like just a knockoff of Inglorious Bastards, which I am glad to say this film is not. But this film is not good in the slightest. It's not bad. Let's start with the positives. Henry Cavill and a few other cast members are having a great time in this movie. And there is some fun of the idea of like, hey, they're murdering Nazis, and Nazis dying is cool because Nazis suck and you like to see them get murked. But that's all that this film really has to offer. And, this isn't like, I think about why this kind of bothered me because I was trying to think, why do I like watching Indiana Jones, right? Which is kind of a similar thing. You got this guy who's running from Nazis, fighting Nazis, killing Nazis, sort of thing. Why am I into that and not this? And I think it's because those movies are just better directed. They have these amazing action sequences, and I'm not asking this film to be as good as those movies, but I'm just watching this going, this doesn't have the fun set pieces that those movies did. And while I think my biggest issue with this movie is the lack of character to this team of people who are just killing Nazis, and some people might make the argument, well, same thing with Indiana Jones. He doesn't really have that character to him. But I would argue, while he isn't a super refined character, you know enough about that character to make him likable, make it work throughout the movie. You care about Indy and all this stuff. And so I just think that nothing in this movie just really was like, all right. Also, this film is rated R, and it's one of the most tame movies I've ever seen. And I'm just, with that rating, it's just like, this is a radar movie where people are killing Nazis, and it just did not feel that violent. I'm like, what are we doing here? This whole movie I did not care for. I thought it was just a waste of time, to be honest, because, while there's some fun to be added with killing Nazis, there's just more entertaining stuff. I also feel like the idea of just portraying Nazis as like, they're fucking dying, is kind of getting a little, not necessarily bad, but like, when Indiana Jones and stuff like that came out in the 90s and 90s and 80s and things like that, Nazis dying and just laughing them off was a little bit more normalized because we didn't really think of that as being a threat anymore, right? And the old school traditional Nazis you see in Indiana Jones and things like this, they're not around anymore, but at the same time, Nazi ideology and belief systems and forms of Nazism is still in American society and other countries as well, and is a real epidemic. So I feel like, when you're just laughing about Nazis being killed, I understand that it is fun or entertaining because these are evil people that deserve this, right? But at the same time, it is kind of like we're kind of still laughing at an ideology that is still like a prevalent thing that is actually scary in our society still. Where back when, Indiana Jones and that stuff came out, it wasn't really as scary because we didn't really understand that. No, that ideology is still very prevalent in our society, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that to really be a negative, just something to think about, and kind of maybe just acknowledge with some of these movies. And in some ways, that made this film feel a little dated to me, honestly, but that's not really a major complaint, just more of like a nitpick and something to think about for me. Was not a big fan of this movie. Didn't hate it. If you love Guy Ritchie stuff, I mean, I would say go watch it. Though, if you're like a guy who mildly enjoys his stuff, wait for it to hit home video or something, or streaming or whatever. But if you're a major fan, then just go watch it because you're gonna like it. It's not one of his best films, though. I think even his highest supporters would probably agree with you there, but I wasn't a fan.